Hello everyone, I'm Bruffy1322 and welcome to the Stewards room, where we'll be taking a look at racing incidents submitted by you guys and trying to make a determination on who, if anyone, was at fault. There's a link in the description to submit your own clips, and feel free to check out the playlist link for more of these videos, specifically the first, which acts as a scene setter. Also keep an eye out for cards popping up on screen towards the end of each segment where you can vote on who you thought was at fault for each incident. Alright, so let's have a look at our first clip. We're on GTA in a Dominator, coming along, looks like we got a bit of an overspeed. He goes to defend and then defending. Oh, okay, there's a coming together there. Alright, so let's move it back and then slow it down a little bit. So what we can see, obviously, is we've got the overspeed as the Dominator behind, as the attacker, we've got the overspeed. We go to try to overtake up the inside, but the guy in front of us makes a defensive move over to the left, which he's allowed to do. But then as we go to the right, he comes back over to the right. And that's not something that you're allowed to do. So let's have a look at the rules as they're set out. So here we are back with the rules of racing document that we always look at. And straight away, number one, the one move rule. Any driver defending his position on a straight and before any braking area may use the full width of the track during his first move, provided no significant portion of the car attempting to pass is alongside his, as you can see there. Now, beyond that, more than one change of direction on a straight is called weaving and is not permitted. As you can see there, more than one change of direction to defend a position is not permitted. So this isn't allowed. You go going to the left, going to the right to try and block somebody from passing you on a straight if they've got higher speed. You're not allowed to do that. You're allowed to make your one move, say to the inside of the corner or the inside of the track so you can defend the inside of the next corner, and that's it. You're not allowed to move back over and try to block. Now, one little additional thing to this is taking the one move rule to its limits, where essentially the defending driver, if he makes his one move over to the inside of the track, he might want to claim that going back over to the outside of the track was just to be able to then take the racing line for the next corner. And this has actually been clarified that any driver moving back towards the racing line, having earlier defended his position offline, should leave at least one car width between his own car and the edge of the track on the approach to the corner. So I've mentioned this before in previous videos, and sometimes people are a little bit saying that, you know, there's no reason that you need to do that, but there it is. It's right there in the rules. It's in the spawning regulations. If you move to the inside, if you make your one move on a straight and then you want to go back to the outside of the track to then take your racing line, you have to leave one car's width. So you have to make sure that you leave a space for one car width to go on the outside of you going into the corner if you've already made your defensive move towards the inside. So let's go back to the clip, and like I said, we've got an overspeed as the attacker. That's his defensive move there done to the inside. So that's what he's allowed to do. He can continue to come over to the left like that if he wants to. He's allowed to keep moving this way, but now that he's made this one move, he's not allowed to then move back over this way until we get to the sort of the braking zone for the next corner. And at that point he would be allowed to go back over to the right, but he would have to leave one car width between himself and the edge of the track so that the defending driver, if he's on the outside, can run deep around the outside. That's the intended consequence of doing that. Because, for example, say that these two cars are, you know, really close together, and the guy in front swerves back over to the right directly in front of this guy who was planning to go around the outside. That's going to cause a crash. So you have to leave one car width around there. But having said that, that isn't something that is relevant here because they're nowhere near the braking zone for the next corner. So obviously we're coming in again. He makes his move back over to the right hand side. And then I believe at this point the clip, it's probably a bit of GTA lag and, you know, physics pushing them both together like that. But yeah, you can't. I don't think you can blame anyone but the driver in front. He shouldn't have been moving back over to the right hand side like that. That's not what he. I mean, they are coming up to the to the next corner, but he's not at this point. He's not looking like he's making any attempt to leave any space on the outside. You know, this is an ever-closing gap, which he shouldn't really be making even smaller in the first place. He should have stuck to his line along here on the inside, defended the position going into the next corner, and he could have drifted over to the side again leaving this 1 car width. But what he does is, you know, it's pretty clear to see that he's essentially just attempting to weave in front of the attacking driver to stop him from passing, because he knows the attacker, the guy who we're, you know, following with, has the overspeed. So this coming together is entirely the fault, in my opinion, of the defending driver here, because he was weaving around the track, and that's something that you're not allowed to do. So obviously there will be a poll in the top right. You can let me know what you think. Was it the attacking driver's fault as well? Should he have backed out of that? Or was it entirely the fault of the defender? Or was it just a racing incident? Was neither of them at fault? Was it just one of those things that happens? For me, that is a clear case of weaving when it comes to defending, and that's a clear case of something that you're not allowed to do. You're not allowed to move all over the track to block a car. But obviously, let me know down below in the comments and on the poll, which will pop up in the top right about now. I'm always interested to hear what you guys think regarding these, but yeah, let me know. Alright, so second clip. Now, the title of this episode is Diving and Dodging. We've tried to do some dodging in the first clip, and that's obviously a reason why you're not allowed to weave around the track, because you're making other cars behind you try to anticipate what you're doing and dodging. And here in this clip, we're doing some diving. So essentially the sender of this clip, who is the blue car who we're looking at, in the notes for this clip submissions said, was this an okay move? You know, was this, it was a bit of a dive bomb, as we're going to see, and that means basically going for an overtake very, very late. And he wants to know basically whether it was okay, whether it was reasonable, or was it too rough? Would he have got a penalty for this, or given a position back or something like that? So, I mean, we'll have a look at it. We've got it from all perspectives, essentially. And the thing I always say with dive bombs, we will obviously look at the rules specifically, but the thing that I always say is, you know, you're welcome to go for a dive bomb at any point if you want to, but if it doesn't work out and you end up taking someone out or causing a collision, you're automatically putting the blame on yourself, because you're going for something that really wasn't on in the first place, and you're only getting, you know, 9 times out of 10 a dive bomb isn't going to work. So if it doesn't work, that's entirely your fault. But if it does work on the other side of that, then I think in most cases I would say there's nothing wrong with it. So on first look, before we actually look into it in depth, this looks okay. You know, it is rough, you know, but both cars still make the corner. Both cars still make the next corner as well. He does come from quite far back, but I think, yes, there's a bit of contact, but again, it's not an awful lot. It's not as if he completely takes him out or anything like that. Like I said, both cars still make the next corner. So for me, that's just a good late move, a good late overtake. It was a dive bomb, but it was one of those dive bombs that actually works. So we'll take a look at the rules around dive bombs specifically. But on first look, to me, that seems okay. So going back to the document, the only thing it really says about this is talking about, you know, where you need to be able to affect an overtake. And it says that today it's generally accepted that the attacker must be at least halfway alongside the defender when they reach the apex to have a reasonable claim of this piece of track. Moreover, the attacker should not have achieved this position by carrying too much speed to make the corner. This method is called dive bombing. So essentially what this boils down to is the idea that, did he carry too much speed into the corner that he wouldn't have been able to make the corner without the contact? And that is essentially what is, at least when it comes to defining whether a dive bomb was okay or not, that's what we're looking at. And for me personally, I don't think he does. I think that it's a very late move, a very late braking, but I think he's still making this corner even without, you know, he's certainly more than halfway alongside when you're coming to the apex of the corner to have a claim to that piece of track. And okay, it does happen very quickly, but the green car could also, if he's seeing him coming up the inside like that, leave a bit more space on the inside. But yeah, he doesn't necessarily have to at that point because it is a dive bomb. It is happening so quickly. But I don't think he's not carrying such, that hit that they have was barely, it was inconsequential. And the fact that even after they have that little bit of contact, the green car is still able to make the next corner speaks volumes to me. If he'd been pushed out wide around here and had to take to this area, then 100% I'll be saying the blue car carried too much speed into the corner. He caused a collision enough to make the green car have to take avoiding action and miss the next corner. He should be giving the position back. Or if the green car managed to keep the position by cutting the corner, then that's fair enough. But he doesn't. The green car is able to continue to make the corner. I think the blue car was also going to be able to make the corner anyway if the green car wasn't there. So for me, yes, this is pretty much on the limit of, a dive bomb. But I would also say that it worked. It was a reasonable dive bomb. It got the job done. I don't think that I would certainly be giving a penalty or anything like that for the blue car. It was just a late braking, hard racing, and fair enough. Nobody got any damage from it. Everybody was okay. Everybody made the corners, and that's all I would say. So, if it was me voting in the poll, I would just be putting racing incident because I don't think there was anything that really happened here. But do you think that for some reason the green was at fault for this? You can vote in the poll, it'll pop up on the top right. Or do you think that the blue was in the wrong on that one and it was too harsh of a move and you would give him a penalty for a move like that? Let me know in the comments and in the poll in the top right. Was blue at fault for that and you'd give him a penalty? Would you give green a penalty for, I don't know, whatever reason? I think that's the only thing we can be sure of, that green didn't really do anything wrong there. Or do you think you'd like me that it's a racing incident and just one of those hard, decent overtakes? Alright, third clip, back on GTA, and we're going to be back to doing some dodging, it seems, from this one, from the early look that I had of it. We're in dominated GTXs, coming along at high speed around this area of track, and then again, it's another little bit of a coming together, similar to sort of the movements that we saw in the first clip, and we're trying to dodge our way through traffic, and it doesn't really work. So for me, just looking at this straight away, I just want to slow it down to unpack it a little bit, because what we're seeing is this car here is slower. For whatever reason, he's maybe recovering from an incident, or maybe he just went slow through a bush or something that slowed him down. Whatever it is, he's going slower than all the other 4 cars around him. Now, it looks like this car is going to slice over to the left, and then the white kind of takes a somewhat avoiding action to go to the inside, but then all 3 of the cars sort of come together at the same point of track. So let's have a look. We've slowed it down. Here you can see that's a bit of a dodgy movement, first of all, from, let's say, black car to just swipe over to the left like that. So now we've got 3 cars, and that movement has kind of put the black car off a little bit. He's slowed down a little bit by making such a movement. So we've got white car has the most speed in this area at this point, but is the furthest back. We've got the orange car, which is furthest forward, has the least speed. So they're all kind of mixing together and going to meet at the same point of track. Now at this point everything looks okay, and I think let's skip it on sort of frame by frame. We see the white sort of, he was looking like he was going to hit the orange car, but he tries to take avoiding action by turning to the left to avoid that, and then just at the last minute I think he starts to try and turn to the right to avoid black, but he ends up going into him. And then that's what causes, obviously, black car to get pivoted around. And then orange goes into white as well. And they all just have have a nice little synchronized spin. So, I mean, if you're trying to find someone to put blame on, you could say that at this point, White could have let off the accelerator. You know, the gap is closing in front of him. He doesn't need to keep it in there. And ultimately, it's his contact with Black that causes the entire thing. But if we put it back to full speed and, you know, actually look at the situation, is that something that we can reasonably expect someone to do? I don't think so. I think that happens too fast. You know, can you reasonably expect someone to be able to be in that position? And it's only really at the last moment that they hit, you know, that final hit there. It doesn't look like that's going to happen until it actually happens to me. So for me, I think I would probably be putting this one down to a racing incident, just like our last clip. I think it's just one of those things. It's just a coming together, 3 cars going for the same piece of track, all at differing speeds. One guy's slower, one guy's faster, one guy's in the middle, and they just all meet together. I think it's just a racing incident. You know, if when you really go down into it and look at it frame by frame, I guess you could argue that the orange car is still recovering, so he still should be trying to get back onto the track. He shouldn't be really retaking a racing line until he's back up to full speed, so there's plenty of space over here that he should really be in. He shouldn't be drifting over to the left. White could have backed out when he saw that this gap was starting to decrease. The black car, obviously, I don't know what he was doing earlier, but he swiped over to the left, which really wasn't on. But I think all of them share some blame in this crash happening, to be honest. And I would say that ultimately it's just one of those things. You know, it's just one of those things that happens in racing. 3 cars are going for the same piece of track. They have it coming together. Nobody's largely to blame because it just happens so quickly, and I would just put it to a racing incident. I certainly don't think I would be giving anybody here a penalty for causing this collision. It's just one of those things. But if you disagree, I'll leave a poll. It will be popping up in the top right. You can also let me know in the comments. Was it the white car's fault? Was it the black car's fault? Was it the orange car's fault? You guys let me know down below in the comments and in the poll, and we'll move on to the next clip. But yeah, for me, just a racing incident, just one of those things that happens, to be honest. It all happened too quick to really, you know, for anyone else to have done anything about it. Okay, final clip. We're back with the dive bombs. We've had a dodging and a dive bomb, then a dodging, and now we're back with a dive bomb. The only bad thing about this one in terms of the clip that we have is that we don't have it from the perspective of the Ferrari who, you know, does the dive bomb in the first place, which is a bit of a shame. So all we can really do is try to you know, see in the mirrors maybe. I mean, you can see the Ferrari in the mirror there. If you slow it down, if we're looking in the bottom left here, as we come to the braking zone of the corner, the Ferrari does flash into the mirrors. We see the indicator popping up as well to show that a car is close. So we're in braking zone. There's the Ferrari, there's the indicator. And the Ferrari has locked up. You know, that's something that you can just see. If we go back a little bit further. So if we just focus on the left-hand side, as the Ferrari comes into, I'll just say red and white, let's say. As the red car comes into view, I'm just going to try and pause it at the right moment. There, you can see the smoke on his tyre right here, and the tyre isn't rotating, so he's locked up. And he crashes. And I would say that, again, we're looking back at a dive bomb. Would the Ferrari have been able to make this corner without crashing into the car in front? In this instance, I don't think so, because, you know, yes, when you say make a corner, you could say that there's so much space around the outside that even if he'd travelled onwards that way, if, you know, this white car just suddenly disappeared, then he still would have been able to carry on the corner. But the apex is here. This is where the apex is. That is making the corner, getting into the apex. You go around like that, clip the apex and continue on. Would the Ferrari have been able to make that apex without, you know, does he even continue to make the apex? That's a question. Let's see. Doesn't look like it. He manages to get pretty close in, but I think he scrubs a lot of the speed from the contact with the white car. So I think in this instance that is kind of, we saw in the second clip that we saw a dive bomb that was just about on the limit of what was acceptable. I think this is just over the limit of what's acceptable, especially when you consider the different makeup of the cars. You know, Formula 1 cars, open wheel, single-seater cars are a lot more fragile than closed wheel racers like we saw in clip 2. You can get away with a little bit more contact in the vehicles that we saw in clip 2 than you can in things like this. And I think, yeah, he comes into it, especially when you see it full speed again and again, he comes into it way too hot, all locked up. He's just basically going straight forward when he should be turning into the corner. That is a definite dive bomb. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, it looks like he gives the position back. So I would be saying that he knows he's in the wrong on that one. But yeah, I would probably put the Ferrari at fault, the red car at fault. I don't think the white car there's anything that white can do. You know, when you're looking at this point, he is still quite far back, red. And, you know, what can you do as white? If you look at when it all happens and how quickly it all happens, is there any avoiding action that white can really take at that point to, or at least enough so that you could really say that was, you know, anything but the red car's fault? I don't think you could put any kind of blame. I don't think there's anything that the white could do in that situation that would apportion blame to him for causing that collision. So for me, that one was entirely on red. I think he got into it way too hot. But you guys can let me know in the poll, obviously in the top left. It'll pop up now. And down below in the comments as well. Was this red car's fault? Was it white car's fault? Or was it just a racing incident? Was that reasonable? Was that a fine overtake? It was all right. Nothing wrong. Everybody was fine. Let me know your thoughts. And that goes for all the clips that we've seen in this episode. So that's pretty much it for this episode. You can find in the video description all the info and links that you may need to submit your own clips. And if you'd like to support me, you can do so on Patreon by becoming a YouTube member or simply subscribing and liking the video. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I'll see you next time.